Hello and welcome back to Level Up with Loraine. So it's been a minute, right? I've been on a winter break and ready to start season 2, and I'm so excited to be back. I know a lot of my listeners have been checking in and asking what's going on. Thank you so much for your patience. I decided to take a break after 13 episodes just to reflect and introspect and remind myself, why did I start this podcast? What again is the purpose? And what do I want to focus on? And so the winter break really helped me sort of focus and zone into the things that I want to focus on in this next season. So welcome to season 2. And I have a refreshed sense of purpose and direction. And I'm so excited to share with you the next topics that I want to delve into and unpack. So the first topic that we are going to cover for this episode and probably a few other episodes after this is narcissism. I have been obsessed with researching narcissism, understanding what it is as a phenomenon. And this was precipitated by events in my own life. So, for example, I have reported into someone I believe was a narcissist. And I have someone in my friends and family circle who I strongly believe is one. Now, I know we throw around the word narc, or this person is a narcissist in everyday language, right? But it's actually a diagnosed personality trait and a psychological term. And so we're going to unpack what narcissism is in terms of what have the experts defined it to be, what are the symptoms, what are the factors that surround narcissism, how do you deal with it, and how do you manage it? So, like I said, I've reported into someone who was a while back, who I believe was a narcissist, and I'll share why, right, in a second. But it's important for me to highlight that I did not want to be irresponsible with this topic because it's something that has impacted and affected a lot of people. I have spent a lot of time reading, researching online, speaking to friends, family, strangers about this, and gathering as much information as possible so that I can share what is an informed view of what is narcissism, right? And how do you deal with it? How do you manage it? And it becomes, I guess, difficult depending on the relationship that you have with the said narcissist. So if you're reporting into them, it becomes very difficult to obviously manage it or get up from under it because you actually have to work with this person 5 days a week, every day, right? So it also becomes hard if it's a lover, right? If it's your partner, your husband, your wife, your spouse, whatever. And you will find that, or what I found in researching was a lot of psychologists or people who were referring to narcissism were talking about it from the perspective of a love relationship, a spousal relationship, etc. But I really wanted to also bring in the angle of people who've been in relationships that are even outside of romantic relationships and experienced narcissism, either with relatives or with a manager or, whatever other relationship. And so when I discuss this phenomenon, I'm not going to sort of zone into a particular relationship. I'm just going to look at it from a broad perspective. So, like I said before, the word narcissism has been thrown around quite a bit, particularly in this social media obsessed culture that we live in, to describe someone who comes across as vain or full of themselves, right? However, in psychological terms, narcissism doesn't mean self-love. It's not the genuine sort of love. It's more accurate to say that people with narcissistic personality disorder, which is what it's called, NPD, and you will probably hear me refer to it in that shortened version, NPD, and that's what it is, narcissistic personality disorder. So typically people with NPD are in love with an idealized, grandiose image of themselves. And they're in love with this inflated self-image precisely because it allows them to avoid deep feelings of insecurity. And so what may seem like a personal attack on you is more so a reflection of what they are experiencing internally: insecurity, fear, etc. All right, so I'm going to kick this off with a definition, an official definition of narcissism, and then we will move into the signs and symptoms, and we will close today's episode with the different types of narcissists. So, narcissism is a psychological term that refers to a personality trait characterized by a heightened sense of self-importance, a constant need for admiration and validation, and a lack of empathy for others. It is named after the Greek mythological figure, Narcissus, who was known for his excessive self-love and vanity. So the key elements to highlight there are self-importance, a constant need for admiration and validation, a lack of empathy for others. They always have to be the center of attention. Their needs trump anyone else's needs, and believing that others are inferior, right? And they are more superior. They think very highly of themselves. So that's the definition. That's the textbook definition. And now I will move into sharing the signs and symptoms that can help you bring this to life for yourself, whether you think you know someone who may be, or you've never heard of this and you want to sort of educate yourself. I will now do a deep dive into the different sort of signs of narcissistic personality disorder. The first and almost one of the main anchor traits is grandiosity. So this is more than just arrogance or vanity. It's really an unrealistic sense of superiority. So narcissists believe that they are unique or special, in quotes, and can only be understood by other special people. And so if you try and think of this, or if you think you know someone like this, typically they want to be surrounded by people of high net worth individuals. So successful, someone who's well known, someone that can, give them that platform to also, rub shoulders with them. So they really have this sense of I'm superior and I am special, and therefore I should be surrounded by people like that. What's more, they are too good for anything average or ordinary. So they usually look down upon other people who are maybe basic in their eyes, or will not be able to give them an unfair advantage in life, in whatever way, shape, or form that could be. So they only want to associate or be associated with high status people, places, things, and they will always show you that part of their life. You will never see sort of, the basic part of their life. And I use basic very loosely. This is all stemming from an insecurity, some sort of insecurity, whether it's from childhood and whatever hurt or fear that they are experiencing internally, and then it shows up or manifests itself in grandiosity. The next sign of narcissism is a constant need for praise and admiration. It's really the need to have their egos stroked constantly. And it's not enough to do it occasionally. You have to do it always and on the go. So it's their constant food for their ego, and they surround themselves with people who are willing to cater to that. And you will find that that's sort of their prey. They will always they'll always look for someone who's weaker, in quotes, who is able to then feed this obsessive craving for affirmation. These relationships are very one-sided. So whether it's your boss and you always have to give the feedback that they are amazing, and when they give you feedback, it's never positive. It's always that you're crap. Or if it's a lover, they want to hear that they are amazing, they changed your life for the better, and they are doing you a favor. That's really sort of the admiration and the praise that they always want. Or if it's a friend or a family member, it's always how they have been so generous to everyone else. They are the ones that, provide opportunities, resources for the family, and and they always sort of want to hear it. If you don't say it, they will remind you, right? And so it's that feeding of the ego, that constant praise, constant admiration, and placing them in, very high regard. And this leads me into sign number 4, which is sense of entitlement. Now, because they consider themselves special, narcissists expect favorable treatment all the time. So they truly believe that whatever they want, they should get, right? Because they're special. And they expect people around them to automatically comply with their every wish. And that is their only value. So if you don't anticipate and meet their every need, then you're useless. And if you have the nerve to defy their will or to selfishly ask for something in return, you should prepare yourself for some sort of aggression, outrage, cold shoulder. And it's so funny that as I'm reading my notes and speaking to you right now, I'm actually thinking of a particular person who is very bullish about what she wants, right? So if she believes that something should happen this way and on this date and this and that, if you have the nerve to say, but that doesn't work for me, or if you show up late, God forbid, or if you try and mess up with those plans, you will absolutely get a cold shoulder. And I'm going to talk about love bombing in a short bit, which will then make sense why the cold shoulder will leave you feeling so confused, because love bombing is also a sign of a narcissist, and how and part of their weaponry and how they lure their prey. So what is love bombing? You'll find that before you get, your 2 feet in to these relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a friend, or it's a work relationship with this person, before you're fully in, they will love bomb you. And that is a psychological and emotional abuse that is often disguised as excessive flattery. And what does this look like? Well, it's over communication of their feelings for you. Oh, friend, I really love you. I really adore you. Or if it's at work, your work is magnificent. Or even in front of other people, can literally call you out as the best employee that they've ever, experienced, etc. Or showering you with unneeded, unwanted gifts, just always trying excessively to get you to like them. So it could be just, let's go for lunch and I'm paying for it. Or I brought you this gift out of nowhere because it's a Wednesday or because it's a Thursday. Or just, unneeded, unwanted, unwarranted gifts out of nowhere. Or early and intense talks about the future together. So next year we're going to go on holiday, or I really want to promote you soon. I believe that you should be, this and that and that, So someone who just, uses this excessive form of flattery and praise to lure you in. That's what love bombing is. And when they do give you the cold shoulder, it's typically when you push back on something or when you don't feed their ego, and then they will suddenly withdraw all of that love, all of that flattery, all of that praise, and now you're left in the cold, right? And now you're questioning, what did I do? What did I say? Why are they acting like this? So that is sort of what love bombing is, and the impact and effect of it when the relationship goes wrong. So in terms of signs of narcissism, we've covered grandiose sense of self-importance. We have covered the need for constant praise and admiration, sense of entitlement, love bombing. I'm going to move on to exploiting others without guilt or shame. Now, narcissists never develop the ability to identify with the feelings of others, right? Because they are so superior and they are so entitled. Surely their needs and their feelings are also superior. So to put themselves in other people's shoes is asking for too much. It's not going to happen. So in other words, they lack empathy. You could go to them sobbing, or you could go to them really, heavy-hearted, heavy-laden, and they could absolutely cheapen or trivialize your experience. They could make it seem like you're overreacting, you're sensitive, you're emotional. And in many ways, they view people in their lives as objects, right? And you are there to serve their needs. So when the object starts to have feelings, well, then now you're doing too much. And as a consequence, they don't think twice about taking advantage of other people to achieve their own needs. So sometimes this interpersonal exploitation is malicious, but often it is simply oblivious. You do not see it coming. And narcissists don't think about how their behavior affects others. Because remember, all they think about is themselves and, fulfilling their own needs. And if you point it out, they still won't truly get it. To them, you're being sensitive and you're being emotional. And the only thing they understand is their own needs. And the last sort of big sign that I will share is the frequent demeaning, intimidation, bullying, or belittling of others. Now, they use this tactic to again make sure that they feel superior, that they are at the top. And if they feel threatened whenever they encounter someone who appears to have something they lack, especially those who are confident and popular, they will use these tactics, like to demean you, right? Bring you down, have you questioning yourself, intimidating you, bullying you, right? And almost making you cower, and belittling you typically in front of other people, so that in their mind, they devalue your worth in front of other people, and somehow their worth goes up. They become more superior. So they're really threatened by people who don't cower to them, who challenge them in every way, shape, or form. And their usual defense mechanism is contempt, right? So looking down upon you and finding ways to neutralize you as a threat. And this is really them putting those people down. They may do it in a patronizing or dismissive way, so that they demonstrate how little the other person knows. Or they may go back to attacking with insults, right? So name calling, bullying, threatening to force the other person back into line. So they can be that overt, or they can do it subtly and covertly. Now I'm going to go through the different types of narcissists. Now, it is important to note that narcissism exists on a spectrum, and not everyone who exhibits the narcissistic traits or signs that I shared has NPD. So NPD is a severe and diagnosable mental health condition, and it's really the long-term pattern of all the signs that I shared, right? Seeing them over and over again consistently in this person, and it significantly impairs an individual's functioning, right? You'll see that most people then don't have friends for a long time. They are always changing friends. If you think of some people you think are narcissists, based on what I've just described or spent time defining, they don't have many friends. They probably have very few friends. Or when they do make friendships, they don't last. And even at work, most of their relationships are they're problematic. So even in work situations, they don't last. They don't last long at work. Or if they are in positions of power, people who report into them don't last long. They move out of the organization or move to a new reporting line. So the first type would be overt or grandiose narcissism. And these people tend to be extroverted, but also uncooperative, selfish, and overbearing. Their exaggerated self-image and high self-esteem allows them to be confident and assertive. However, they're also likely to overestimate their own emotional intelligence. So they do think that they have a very high EQ. They see nothing wrong with their behavior or how they're showing up, and they're out there. They are overtly extroverted. And the second type is a covert or vulnerable narcissist. It's common to imagine all narcissists as dominant. However, this type is more introverted. So they tend to be extremely sensitive to criticism and suffer from low self-esteem. So they can be defensive and passive aggressive, but they are less likely to overestimate their emotional abilities compared to the first type, the overt narcissist. The third one is a communal narcissist. Now, communal narcissists tend to view themselves as altruistic and claim to care deeply about fairness. So they're very big on justice, or they claim to be. They present themselves as though they're supportive and selfless. However, their behavior is motivated by a desire for social power, for a sense of superiority or entitlement. And because of this, their actions don't always match their beliefs. The fourth one is antagonistic narcissism. And in contrast to the one I just spoke about, communal, these ones are highly competitive. And their approach to social interactions is highly competitive. So they often exhibit zero-sum thinking, believing that every situation there has to be a loser and there has to be a winner, and they will almost always be the winner, right? And I'll just throw this in. You don't want to get into debates with these kind of people, especially in front of an audience, because they will absolutely belittle you and just leave you feeling worthless. So don't do it. Do not engage. Walk away. So this view of the world for them, that there needs to be a loser or winner, means that they will almost always be aggressive and hostile, right? And they will be quick to disparage others and slow or unwilling to forgive. They always need to end up as the winner in any situation. The last one is malignant narcissism. Malignant narcissism can be a more destructive form of personality disorder. So in addition to the typical signs that I shared earlier, this one might be aggressive, paranoid, or sadistic. So they actually take joy in other people's pain. They tend to display antisocial behavior, disregarding the rights or safety of other people. So this is the last one. And you may know someone who sort of exhibits a bit of all of these types, including the signs that I shared, and they're highly likely a narcissist. So that is the definition of narcissism. Those are the signs and symptoms of narcissism, and those are the different types of narcissism that I've shared in today's episode. In the next episode, we are going to be talking about how do you deal with a narcissist, right? How do you actually save yourself as the victim? How do you deal with it? How do you manage it in the different forms of relationships that it could rear its head? How do you manage it? And we will also talk about setting healthy boundaries. So tune in next week for the second part of the narcissism series. And please share with me your feedback. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to like the episode, share it with your friends and your network. And until next time, continue to level up.